Um, I also realized that he was a little bit nervous about doing this, didn't quite know what it was. He wasn't sure he was going to get out of it. I think he said yes because he's, acquaintance with Bob, but wasn't quite sure where this was going. So the problem he was trying to solve is he has a podcast which has a very small followership, and he wants to have more people in the podcast and the story. So I decided to do Bad Idea, given the success we had with it. So I gave him 3 minutes, and I said, hey, for 3 minutes, and I modeled it, told him what a bad idea was, gave him an example, and I said there's no such thing as a good bad idea, as a bad good idea. Just let your mind flow. And he came up with, in 3 minutes, 11 bad ideas for his podcast. And you could tell he had no confidence in anything that he had put down, which was fantastic. And so I had him read through the list for me. I wrote them down as he read through them. And I decided to try and find a couple of gems in there where we could work with. So we actually took 3 of his bad ideas and worked on them and workshopped them to a resolution in the call. So for me, it was important that he leave that call with some action to take. So the first one, and being he's a military guy, he said, hold people hostage until they click follow.
Nice, love it.
Right. So I confirmed. I said, just make sure you're talking about a physical, containment of people. Yes, that's a bad idea. However, how do you figuratively hold people hostage? Right? How do you figuratively have them get involved where they don't want to leave? And we workshopped that for a little bit. And we went through the piece, and where we ended up with is that, I asked him if he had an elevator pitch for his podcast in this discussion, and he did. And it was about him in the podcast. I said, the way you keep people hostage is have it be about them.
Yes. Beautiful, Steve.
Right.
That's great. That's a great point.
Thank you. So we workshopped a little bit about him creating an elevator pitch about what's in it for them, and in conversations identifying quickly what part of his project that was meaningful to them. So he's going to work on an elevator pitch in a style where it's for them to kind of start holding people hostage, where they demand from him, what's the link to that podcast? So there was his first bad idea. We turned it into a good idea. The next one, he said, you could go to either protests or a literal war zone, like, Ukraine or Palestine or Gaza, and get people. I said, yep, that's a horrible idea. But where are people that you could go where they are, where they're kind of there, right? So while you don't want to go to a war zone, what are some figurative war zones? So we talked about different events he could go to, and I asked him, where are you getting your followership? And he really didn't have a plan. So he said he had a marketing person. I said, what if you make your marketing person the general, and she maps out the war zones? So whether it's a Chamber of Commerce meeting, or there's veteran activities and you get a table or a booth, so you create your own war zones where you can use your elevator pitch and get people. So we turned that into a good idea, I think, from the bad idea. The third one was, he said, advertise in unrelated periodicals. I thought that was a fabulous bad idea, right? So not veterans, but maybe Good Housekeeping or something like that. So we turned that, just for time, we turned that into, could you be a guest speaker on other people's unrelated podcasts that might bring in a veteran? So maybe not other veteran podcasts, but something that's talking about gun repair or whatever it is. And now you become an expert and a guest speaker, and people discover you in an unrelated setting. So we left with that one. So those are the 3 bad ideas. And then the best bad idea came from the conversation after. So we were kind of working through some of that, and and we were just talking, and he says, yeah, and I said, what's your real problem here? I mean, the followership is the problem. What's the real problem? Is it money? Is it time? What is it? And he said, I don't have enough money to hire people, and so for that matter, I don't have time. I have a full-time job. I'm doing this on the side, trying to get it going. And what we came up with was, is there a cause in the United States that people care about more than U.S. veterans? I can't imagine that there is. What if your marketing person launched a campaign on LinkedIn or wherever it is, looking for volunteers for 1 to 25 hours a week, whatever that is, and look for specific expertise, build your staff from people who are passionate about the project, and now you have a full staff to do what you couldn't do before, and you're not paying a dime. And when you finally can afford people, you now have a bench to work from. So those are the 4 ideas that we ended up turning into good ideas.